So, Dr. Starmer, first we like to begin with your journey. So, we are intrigued by your diverse background as a founder, educator, and YouTube creator as well, who's focused on
Oh,
statistics and machine learning. We are
uh-huh.
curious to know what motivated your academic transitions, like from undergrad in music and computer science to pursuing a PhD in bioinformatics. So, could you share your experience regarding these academic transitions and how they have shaped up your journey thus far?
Yeah, so I grew up playing music my whole life. I love music. I love playing music. I grew up playing the cello, which is a yeah, if you don't know, it's a large instrument related to the
Yeah.
violin. Um, and I just loved music, and I wanted to be a musician. I thought that would be a great career option for me, just because I was so passionate about it. Um, but I went to college, and every summer I would apply for jobs, to make some money, and every summer I was offered like like unpaid position with music, or even like a position where they're like, you can pay us, and I'm like, oh, are you kidding me?
Okay.
Or I was offered like a paying like computing job, like programming job. And to be honest, programming, I mean, I love music and I'm very passionate about music, but I also love programming. Programming is like, it's super fun. It's like solving little puzzles. I love this. I love that feeling of working on a programming project and, getting it done. And yeah, I do love programming. And so to me, it really was sort of like a little bit of a coin toss. I maintained both, and I still play music, and was able to get a degree in music and a degree in computer science, and they're
Yeah.
both things that I love. And what I one thing I found when I was in college was when I only did one of those two things. Like I had maybe a whole semester where all I did was music things, and I thought it would be like the best semester of my whole life.
That sounds awesome.
Ended up being pretty miserable. I missed programming. And likewise, I had a semester or two of just computer science stuff, coursework. And again, I thought it'd be great. And again, it was kind of miserable. And so I've discovered that I really can't just do one of these two things. I love computing and I love music, and to not do one of those is to sort of like make myself miserable. So I always
Chose to
do
do both.
both. Yeah, exactly. It's not a choice. I have to do both.
Yeah, that
Oh,
does sound interesting. It's really great that you loved both and did an undergrad in both. So it's great to hear. So
yeah.
in the recent context of discussing about artists versus the AI generated art, so you must have heard about it. So recently we came across Google developing a music language model that could
Uh-huh.
generate music which remains consistent over several minutes as well. So, how do you think this changes the scene for musicians like you, like as an artist?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, I could go on and on and on. I could talk all day about these things. So the music industry is kind of it's a music industry, and it is an industry. But at various points in my career, I've actually been a professional musician, and a professional composer. I've written music for television commercials. I've written and performed and composed music for movies, for dance companies. So I've done a lot of that. And what I discovered while I was doing that, a lot of the time people don't want new creative music. As a composer, I found this very frustrating. They'd be like, "Oh, we want something really exciting, something new, something it's really going to blow people's mind." But
Yeah.
really, what they wanted was something very similar to a hit song, or something
Okay.
very similar to a
Like a
piece of
knockoff.
music. Yeah, a knockoff. What they really wanted was their movie to sound just like some other movie, or they wanted their dance music to sound just like somebody else's dance music. And it was actually pretty, and it was one of the reasons why I kind of got out of that. In that I found it kind of like very recreational and sort of like imitative rather
Mhm.
than creative. And there's a place for being imitative, but there's also like now we have software that'll do it for you. There are some people that are very good at that sort of like creating imitative material, but it's not necessary.
Yeah.
I hate to knock on those people, but I just feel like they're not really adding a lot to the world that a
Creativity.
computer
Yeah.
program couldn't do already. I mean, how creative and amazing these programs are. I mean, that remains to be seen. But
Yeah.
if I mean, a lot of what people want in terms of music is just imitative stuff. And if imitative stuff is what they want, they could spare a lot of musicians a lot of agony by just creating it. And I know I'm probably making light of it, and there's a lot of jobs that are on the line here. Um,
Yeah.
so I appreciate it. It's a much more complicated thing than like the creative people versus the imitative people, because there's lots of people that just like make music. There's performers, there's that play guitar, play drums. What happens when it's all automated. But again, we've also kind of like been dealing with this for a long time, and like drum machines and synthesizers have been
Yeah.
around for a long
Yeah.
time. This isn't really a new thing, and it may I'm an optimist, and so I'm going to look at this thing from a like, well, what good can come out of this? And it could be
Yeah.
that as a result of it being so easy to create imitative content, that people will now put a premium on creative content instead of just trying to make everything sound the same or sound like whatever the next hit or last hit was. They're going to think about like, well, what can we do to be different? And one things we can do to be different is encourage people to be creative. And so I secretly hope that the music industry will transform from something where
Yeah.
people copy other people to something where people create new art and new cool stuff. And whether or not that happens, I can't say, but it's what I would like to happen. Um, I would like to see that happen. It'd be great to see more creativity, because there's a lot of creative
Yeah.
people that are being told to just sort of like, oh, that's a great song and everything, but what we really want is for it to sound like this other one a little bit more. Can you do that? And maybe if we had less of that going on in the music business, things would be better.
Yeah.
But who knows?
We'll
I'm
have to
just
wait.
one person. Yeah, we'll have
Yeah.
to wait and see.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
totally agree. We'll have to wait and see how the industry turns out to be. And
Yeah. I mean,
and
it's
we know you're a professional musician from the videos.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, which I
Yeah.
always think is kind of funny, because those songs are so I do if you don't know, I start every video that I make on YouTube with a silly song. And although I do have a long musical pedigree and a lot of like training and a lot of experience and things like that, those specific songs are intended to be as low, like they're
Tuned
not
to
works
the
of art. They're supposed to be silly. They're supposed to be short. They're supposed to be
and
imperfect, for a lot of reasons. One, it's for me, it's fun at the end of it. When I've done recording the video, I've spent a lot of time on. It's fun to just kind of like just let loose and not think about what I'm doing and just play something silly and have a good time. So that's fun. But I've also found that it has the effect of like when people hear my little silly song that's unprofessional and it doesn't sound great and it's kind of clunky. When people hear that, it not everybody, but some people, it has a calming effect. They're stressed out. They've got a big test ahead of them. They've got a job interview. They've got a lot of
definitely.
things that they're worried about, and they're watching my video to kind of like, practice or get or study or get prepared for something they're really stressed out about. And my silly songs are sort of like helps them relax. And
Yeah.
so
We
I
start
I
your video and that's a jingle and we feel relaxed
exactly.
already. Yeah.
So I try to make it kind of silly and try to like make it like unprofessional sounding, just so like people can listen to it and go, oh yeah, it's not that big a deal. Nothing has to be perfect. Just relax, learn the main ideas. We'll be good to go.
Yeah.